Have you ever been sitting in a room with someone you love or at a job that you used to be excited about, and suddenly the silence is just deafening? It's not just an empty quiet. It's a silence full of unspoken words, of tension. It's filled with the heavy weight of a question you're too scared to even whisper. Is this it? Is this really all that there is for me? My name is Berries. I am an artist, healer, and spiritual teacher. We're going to look at the key warning signs that are screaming at you. It's time to let go. It's time to move on with your life. That feeling, that constant draining tension where you keep telling yourself that this is just a rough patch. The kind of knot in your stomach that you brush off as stress. What if it's not just a phase? What if it's your gut, your compass, desperately trying to show you that there's a different path? This constant gut feeling that's telling you that there has to be a better path. For years, I completely ignored that compass. I convinced myself that the life I had built was the one that I had to put up with. I had a marriage that was probably fine to the outside observer, but on the inside, I was vanishing. Today, I want to talk to you about how you can start finally listening to that feeling and find the courage to choose yourself, even when it feels like it's the most impossible thing you could achieve. My life before it fell apart wasn't some big dramatic disaster you might associate with being in the movies. It was quieter, which in some ways made it harder to justify leaving. It was more like a slow erosion, a life lived walking on eggshells. Do you know that feeling? That constant self-monitoring, where you edit your words and actions just to keep someone else from getting upset at you. This hypervigilance becomes your normal. You get really good at reading the room, at navigating conversations that are going to be a minefield, all to maintain this fragile sense of peace. But that peace isn't real. It comes at the cost of your own voice. I stopped sharing my thoughts, my dreams, and my opinions because the emotional cleanup just wasn't worth it. And stuff like this can happen anywhere. At a job, it's that feeling of being perpetually undervalued, where your work is invisible and your ideas are shot down. You feel stuck, like you've hit a wall with nowhere to go. In a friendship, it's when you realize you're the only one putting in the effort. You're the only one texting, you're the only one really trying. And with a family, it can be the crushing weight of guilt and obligation, the idea that you owe them your happiness just because you're related. The details change, but the feeling is same. It's like you're shrinking. This slow burn suppression of who I was led to a deep, chronic exhaustion that settled into the core of my very being. I felt like I was running an emotional marathon every single day. I was tired all the time, not because I wasn't getting enough sleep, but it was the sheer weight of not being myself. My self-worth had shrunk to almost nothing, and I honestly started to believe that was all I deserved in life. For me, the real turning point came in a moment of terrifying clarity in the middle of yet another fight with my then husband. We were sitting in the car, and as the fight went in exhausting circles, it finally dawned on me. A question cut through the noise, and it was clearer than anything I'd ever heard in my whole life. What if I'm still fighting with this person nonstop in the next 5, 10, 20 years? And I knew I couldn't. The constant degradation to my self-worth was not worth it. I had to face the fact that my marriage was a failure, despite trying everything. Therapy, giving him space, being there for him on his bad days. It felt like my entire life was a failure. Failure as an employee, failure as a business owner, failure as an artist, failure as a wife, failure as myself. In that moment, the answer was an immediate hell no. It wasn't just a thought. It was this declaration that shot through me. It was the truth I'd been burying in a mountain of excuses. It was time to move on. This is the moment when your intuition screams so loudly, you can't pretend you don't hear it. It's the realization that is actually hurting you more than leaving ever could. It's when you finally understand that staying on this path is actually abandoning yourself. For you, maybe it's a dismissive comment from your boss that makes you finally see that you'll never be valued there. Or a friend belittles a dream that you finally worked up the courage to share. Maybe it's realizing you feel more alone lying next to your partner than you would ever by yourself. Whatever it is, this is the moment that the phase shows itself for what it truly is. Your reality. Deep down that something has to give. Deciding to change is one thing. Actually doing it, that's a whole different beast. The time between me deciding to leave and the day I actually did was filled with this paralyzing fear. Fear of the unknown is a powerful glue that keeps us stuck in painful but familiar situations. The misery we know can feel so much safer than a happiness we can't yet imagine. My brain was flooded with all the what ifs. What if I fail? What if I can't support myself? What if I totally end up being alone? This type of fear usually comes from a deep down belief that we aren't enough, that we don't deserve any better. Toxic situations are brilliant at chipping away your self-esteem, making you feel like you can't survive without them. It's the classic codependency trap. I also had to fight against societal pressure. This feeling of getting a divorce meant that I was a failure. I was genuinely worried about what my friends and family would say. That fear of judgment can be its own prison. Within that prison, there's this hope that maybe things could get better. At this point, it's critical that you do not doubt yourself. The what if they change story? It is such a powerful illusion, especially when you have these little moments of peace in between the chaos. And that's when you start second guessing yourself. But here's the thing. A consistent pattern of neglect and disrespect isn't just a phase. It's the reality of the relationship. That was the struggle. Fighting the fear inside my head and the expectations from the outside world. All the while trying to hold on to that moment of clarity that it was time to move on. The day I finally left, I felt this bizarre mix of pure terror and liberation. As I was packing my things, every object felt heavy with this memory, piece of my life that I was taking apart. This wasn't some triumphant scene in a drama movie. It was quiet. It was painful. And it was one of the hardest things I ever had to do. I remember driving away and looking in the rearview mirror, and it felt like I was watching the film of somebody else's life. This is the leap. That's the moment when you choose the scary, uncertain future over the soul-crushing certainty of your present. It's a radical act of self-love. It's a declaration that you are worthy of love and peace. Choosing yourself, even when your hands are shaking and your heart is about to explode out of your chest. Rebuilding my life from the ground up was overwhelming. There were the practical things, finding a new apartment, sorting out my finances, creating a new routine from scratch. And then there were the emotional hurdles, waves of loneliness, grieving a future that I thought I was going to have, the constant work of healing from years of being torn down. It wasn't about pretending I was okay. It was about letting me feel everything. The anger, the sadness, the fear, without letting it swallow me whole. The first few months were just about surviving, but slowly that survival turned to rediscovery. I started doing little things that I hadn't done in years. Listening to my own music, full blast, in the car, going for long walks just to be alone with my thoughts. Reaching out to old friends I'd really lost touch with. Every small act was like taking a step back toward myself. I found myself a job that wasn't just about a paycheck. It was a place where my ideas were heard, which helped me slowly piece my confidence back together. Leaving isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning of a new one. And from my own journey, I want to share the lessons that became my compass. Think of these as signs your gut might be trying to say in order to talk to you, to help you move forward. First, pay attention to the early warning signs. Are you emotionally exhausted all of the time? Do you feel drained after spending time with this person or in this environment? Because that's a huge sign. Do you feel like you've lost yourself? Is your confidence at an all-time low? Are you always walking on eggshells, scared to be yourself? And the biggest one, what is that deep gut feeling trying to say to you? Your intuition is your internal compass. Ignoring it is a recipe for suffering. Second, look at the external signs. Is there a clear pattern of broken trust, disrespect, or contempt? Are your needs constantly being ignored? Is the effort within the relationship or the job a one-sided thing? Are you the only one trying? Is there any kind of manipulation or control, be it emotional, mental, or physical? Any one of these can be a bright red flag that the situation isn't just tough, it's toxic. I know this is a heavy topic. And if you're struggling with this right now, you might be feeling completely alone in this, but you're not. So many of us have been on this road. If you'd feel comfortable, I'd be honored if you share a piece of your own story in the comments. Not for anyone to judge, but for us to connect. Let's create a space where we can lift each other up, because nobody should have to navigate this alone. If you feel called to take the next steps on your healing journey, I invite you to join our Patreon community. It's a sanctuary filled with restorative meditations and resources designed to support and guide you wherever you are on your path back to self. The biggest lesson I learned was this: leaving is not a failure. It's an act of self-preservation. It's choosing to believe you're worthy of a life that doesn't just look good to the outside world, but it actually feels good on the inside. It's taking a leap of faith in yourself. This belief that when you close one door, another one will open. The path to rebuilding isn't easy, but it's yours. It's a journey back home to yourself. You will find your strength again. You will find your voice. You will find your joy. You will remember the person who you were before you decided to play small. And one day, you'll look in the mirror and not only recognize the person who looks back at you, but you'll feel a deep, steady love for them. Trust that feeling. It's pointing you home. Thanks for listening, and until I see you at the next one, I'm wishing you peace, love, and all the berries.